Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Ground Branch. Is it a game worth getting? Well, it really all depends on what sort of player you are to begin with. If your idea of a good time is, say, running and gunning in Battlefield or COD, and you have no concept of what your mic is for, or you've never even heard of teamwork, then you're best off leaving this game well alone. However, if you're the kind of player who gets a cerebral hard-on for the slow and methodical approach in dealing with CQB type scenarios, then this could be the game for you. But having said that, right off the bat, I would recommend that to get the most out of this game, you're best off joining a community, because just jumping into lobbies and playing with randos from the internet is underwhelming and not very satisfying. Now, if you've never heard of Ground Branch, what is it? Well, it's a no-nonsense tactical FPS, kind of concentrates more on the CQB side of things. However, you do get a chance to whip out the scope and engage the enemy at longer distances. Ground Branch is also a game that's received many plaudits for its highly customizable nature. For example, when prepping your operator, you can choose how much and what type of ammo you wish to run with, as well as choosing whether you want to carry grenades or flashbangs. In addition, you can also change your cosmetics, so think your clothing, your headgear, your eyewear, boots, etc, etc. And finally, there's your weapons. There's a pretty decent selection to choose from, and once you've chosen your weapon of choice, you can kit it out with scopes, grips, lasers, and a bunch of other gadgets. Once your operator's kitted out, you can either jump into a PvP game, a PvE, or you can just do some solo training. Once you're on game, you'll also notice that you can carry your gun in several positions, so you can do high, low, ready. This doesn't go as far as, say, armor freeze positioning, but personally I think that's a good thing because they really overdid it. When it comes to breaching rooms, which you'll do quite a bit of, you can open doors a tiny bit, swing it wide open, or attach a charge and blow that thing off its hinges. And this is one of the things that I really like about Ground Branch, because as far as your operator is concerned, they're pretty flexible in terms of mobility and actions. Now unfortunately, for me at least, this is where Ground Branch as a game peaks. Graphically, the game looks like it's from 2010. It's adequate, but it's nothing special. The locations themselves are pretty plain, and they're lacking in detail and atmosphere. To be honest, it feels like you're actually fighting in a hospital, even if you're in a derelict building or a forest. If I had to sum up the game locations in one word, that word would be sterile. And when it comes to the character animations and ragdolls for both the AI and the operators, they tend not to be very smooth and more than a little bit jerky. Now, sticking with the AI bots are kind of strange. They can be pretty brutal and challenging, but they can also be pretty dim. This tends to happen at the start of a round when they just try to rush you en masse and you end up just mowing down the vast majority of them. Now, going back and just touching on the issue of maps again, there's only about 11 of them. There's 7 main maps and 3 training maps. Most of these feature both day and night versions. However, if you play Ground Branch for any significant amount of time, you'll soon find yourself getting rather fatigued with the maps. The game just suffers from a distinct lack of content, and it's not just the maps that are lacking, it's also the game modes, the most popular being Intel Recovery and Terrorist Hunt. Unfortunately, in the Intel Retrieval mode, the laptops which you have to recover and extract, they're always in the same place, so after you've played the map a couple of times, the interest just kind of wanes there. Then there's the Terrorist Hunt. Terrorist Hunt is where you just have to hunt down all of the AI and shoot them. Now, unfortunately, this mode can actually kill a server pop, because nobody wants to sit around watching an interminable game of cat and mouse as the last player on your team tries to hunt down the last bot. Now obviously there's also PvP modes, but it's been a while since I managed to get into one. It's a combination of time zones and player population. I just don't really see them whenever I've wanted to play. I will admit I have seen a few deathmatch servers, but I didn't get into tactical shooters to play deathmatch. So those are my main gripes. Not enough maps, not enough modes. I would love to see some kind of bomb disposal scenario, or perhaps even a VIP rescue and escort mission. In fact, not so long ago I was watching one of Karma Cut's videos and saw his community roleplay a player hostage rescue scenario, which I thought would really work well if there was an official version. Now, one way to get around the lack of content and modes would be to have modding in the game. Now, this is where it gets a little strange, because there is actually a modding scene for Ground Branch. However, when are mods pointless? When they're not easily accessible from within the game. And I feel that devs are actually missing a trick here, especially considering we are now entering the 4th year since the official release of the game. Honestly, as things stand at the moment with Ground Branch, I can't really recommend this game because it's overpriced and underplayed. And this year's price hike to $30 can't have done sales any favours. Not to mention that updates for this game come at a glacial pace, which is a shame because this could be a great game. Now unfortunately, the CQB action game genre isn't that expansive, so what are some decent alternatives to Ground Branch if you want to scratch that close quarter combat itch? Well, this is what I happen to be playing at the moment. Firstly, there's 0 Hour, possibly the most similar game to Ground Branch in this list, and as a consequence, it suffers from similar issues, i.e. lack of content, poor player interaction, general lack of polish. You play as a member of a Bangladeshi SWAT team, and although there's not as much customization as you would get in Ground Branch, it is very cheap. It's a third of the price and it has a much bigger player base. In fact, I picked it up for $5, which to my American friends, that's about $8. It's a great little game, and I've noted that the devs are actually quite quick off the mark when it comes to keeping the game updated. Now, the next game on my list is Insurgency Sandstorm. Now, this game is quite run and gunny, but you can play it pretty tactically, especially against bots. It's more militaristic in scope, and it has a lot of weapon customization. The main part of the reason I'm mentioning this here is because it has modding. What I'm actually hoping for is for a Ground Branch style mod at some point, and again, it has a pretty decent player base when compared to that of Ground Branch's. Now, controversially, I'm going to mention Rainbow Six Siege here. I know it's turned into a bit of a hero shooter lately, but it's highly tactical and it funnels players towards objection completion via the countdown of the clock, so action's always pretty much guaranteed. So if you're with a squad and you use tactics and communication, it gets pretty sublime. Plus, it's got an absolutely massive player base and is like a $5 at the moment. Again, that is about $8. And my final recommendation is good old Arma 3. To me, it feels the most similar in gameplay and character movement to Ground Branch, and while it does have a lot of issues, the fact that there are a load of custom CQB scenarios available, a massive player base, and is pretty cheap in Steam sales, you can't go far wrong with this one. So there you have it, my conclusive answer to whether or not you should get Ground Branch. Not a bad game, it just seems to have lost its way a bit. Anyway guys, stick around for another video and I will see you next time, but until then my friends, this is HipKelt, signing off.